Hey guys, welcome to part 2 of the Hampstead under 2200 that I played this weekend just gone. This is the day 2, as I said. I did a walking video once more. As I say, day 1 was a bit of a disaster. Let's see how day 2 work goes. Let me just add the video, bear with a second. This worked a second ago, so fingers crossed it worked twice. That would be nice. Here we go.
Okay, so this is part 2 of the Hampstead under 2200 Congress. Day 1 didn't go according to plan, as you saw on at the end of the last video. The guy who beat me in the first round, as I say, he's now leading 3 out of 3, so he's not too bad. They've just messed up in the opening and got ground down, but you know, I fought as hard as I could, but unfortunately, even with his time problems, he still managed to do me over. Round 2, as you saw, yeah, that was devastating. Chalk up 5 losses in a row. Thank you very much. Good season. Yeah, you just got to keep getting up and fighting. I had a beer after the games and then a half bottle of wine. That helped quite a lot. I mean, I'm not feeling amazing today, but at least I got some sleep. So I'm hoping that my opponent, who I played twice before this morning, I've had positive results against him both times. So fingers crossed, I'll be able to at least finally get a win that's not a rapid play win on the board, which is really bizarre because I'm actually doing really well in rapid play. So there's something not quite right with my slow play at the moment, but perhaps today's the day. But we'll see. I was going to try and get a quick word with Adam to see if he has any interest in plugging his event further. I'm sure he does. See if we can catch him out on a question. Probably won't. He's quite professional, but we'll give it. So back into the Dragon's Den, the lair. He's pretending to be busy talking to someone, so we'll see. He just said he's really busy if you didn't pick that up. I can show you the pairings for today. Here they are. I am sadly down here. That's me. So hopefully we'll pick up towards the end of the day. This is the under 1900. I met this guy yesterday. He's followed me on YouTube. So hello to, I'm going to pronounce this wrong, but we'll go with Genks. He seems like a nice guy, and he's done particularly well as well. He had a tough game against my friend David Cork yesterday. I'll ask him about that later, see how he did. But he's still pretending to be busy, so perhaps I'll do the questions later on. But this is bye for now, and hopefully good luck. He's not that busy. Hang on. Adam.
Yes, sir.
Why should people come to your chess tournaments?
They stick to the schedule. They start when they start.
When you say they should start.
They finish when they're advertised to finish. Prizes are guaranteed. They're generally quite informal.
Yeah.
But they are FIDE rated, generally, ECF graded. They're a good start for players who are just starting out in the tournament world, because there are sections for every different strength of player, and there are sections for players with lots of experience who are trying to improve their FIDE rating.
And idiots like me who think that they're going to improve their FIDE rating.
You're somewhere in the middle.
Thanks, Adam.
Okay.
So come to his tournaments. He didn't add that, the bunch of people here are regulars, and so we get along really well. So we're a nice little group. So please come and join in. And this is bye for now. See you later on.
Right. I say a lot. I say a lot of things a lot, because the problem is I have to think, and while I'm thinking, I'm going to repeat stuff. So I do apologise for that. Anyway, into the game analysis for day 2. What joy is ahead for me this time? Am I going to chalk up my 6th loss in a row? Well, it certainly seemed that way. Let's just say that. Bear with while I get into the analysis stuff. You'd think I'd be professional and have this ready, but that wouldn't be very Patserous, would it? I've got to live up to the name. I do it quite naturally. It's not really something I have to try at. So straight into analysis. Here, look, you see, you learn how to get to the analysis window on chess.com. Yeah, see, if you didn't know. Right, so load PGN, game 3. In it goes. Let's hope it doesn't take long. Yep, there it is. Bing bang bosh. Copy. Back. Finally, paste. Whoop whoop. Okay, so I'm black in this game. So I'm going to flip the board. Flip it. Right, now as I said in the video, I'd played this guy twice before. And I've beaten him as black and as white. As white, he plays the G3 Sicilian. And as black, he plays the Alekhine. I play E4. Now, today, I think maybe because of the hangover, possibly, I had illusions of maybe I can play something different against him. Now, the only E4, E5 opening I know anything about is the Petrov defense. And I know quite a lot about it. But I wanted to win this game, and the sad side of the Petrov is that there's a lot of lines that are very tough to get an advantage. Even once you've equalised, is quite tough because pawns tend to be symmetrical, etc., etc., blah blah blah. And I just didn't fancy playing against the G3 Sicilian today. I don't know what it was. I just felt it'd be too easy for him to get his plan. So I thought I'd play an opening where he probably knows a way way more than what I know, which is what happened. So the moral of the story is just stick to your strengths. Don't try to be clever. I mean, every single time I try to be clever, it all goes wrong for me. I'm not saying I lost this game. I'm not saying I won it either. But I could have just given myself a better start. The way I saw it was I was feeling a bit rough. And I thought that would actually help that I play something I'm not used to, just so I think about it a bit more. But that's just rubbish. Just play the stuff you know to start with, and then go away, practice online, and then roll out over the board openings once you know them. So he plays E4, and this is where I should really be playing C5. And even here, this is okay so far. And now this is where I should be really playing knight F6. Oops. Now, the thinking behind this was, I do know a lot about the white side of the Roy Lopez, and so not even knowing whether he plays the Roy Lopez, I play knight C6. He could play anything here. Bishop C4, C3, D4, which he does play, Scotch. And again, those are big openings, and if you don't have any experience in them, you're gonna suffer. So let's see how I do. Obviously at the moment I'm alright. Point 3, we're just going to get rid of the computer. I'll, as usual, bring it back in when it's relevant. So first move, D4. Uh-oh. Oh yeah, he could play the Scotch. And do I know anything about the Scotch on the white side? So do I know anything about it on the black side? No. When will I learn? Anyway, I know you can take that pawn, because that seems fair. And I know there's some random gambit, I think, where you don't take the pawn back. I don't know if you play C3. I think that's probably a bit leery. I'd definitely take that pawn. But I think you can possibly leave it and maybe play bishop C4. I don't know any theory. I've just heard there's something called the Scotch gambit, and I suspect it's something to do with that pawn. He took back, so we don't have to worry about that at least. And in this idea, I play on the white side against the centre counter. Now, if black takes num, I can just put my queen here. I threaten the knight, and I'm threatening checkmate. So I'm going to pick that knight up. So say, well, he's got to play something reasonable to stop the mate, right? So I don't know. Gosh, how do you stop that mate? God, this is a false win. I don't know. Let's do something. We'll say we're still going to castle. Probably going to castle queenside. So we'll put the queen here. That seems reasonable. And then you can always fiend chat with this bishop if you need to. Bishop's going to come out fairly fast, and knight's going to come out. So this isn't unreasonable. And then you just take back. Actually, so that probably is better to play queen d2 then and castle kingside, because obviously where the queen's going to end up. And this kind of position I'm sure is probably okay for black. It's going to give me I reckon, yeah, there you go. So 0.27. A nice place to start as black. Not too far behind, basically. But my opponent, because he knows a bit about the Scotch, didn't do that. No, he played. Oh, well, I don't have to do this because it's already preloaded. He played bishop e3. Okay, so now it's. I think apparently I can still play queen f. My opponent tells me I can still play queen f6 here because there's a naughty pin involved. I'll see if I can remember it. So if I play queen f6 and he takes, I take first because I'm threatening mate again before I recapture the knight. So this is obviously probably very good for black, I would imagine. Yeah, there you go. So we just turn the whole opening around there. So, but he knew that too, and as I say, I only learned that because he told me about it. So again, not something I was considering. I realised here that I've already made a mistake as soon as he's played the Scotch. So I tried to simplify and hopefully outplay him with less pieces on the board. But you know, there's still, he doesn't have to simplify completely. So I start trading off pieces and then offer the queens, because if queen takes queen, knight takes, I'm probably absolutely fine, I'd imagine here. There you go. And from this position, okay, I'm trying to win is going to be pretty difficult, but I'm no longer in an opening that I have no idea what I'm doing. One of these days, I'm just going to stop making bad life decisions. I'm not sure when. I'm into my 30s and I'm still doing it. So hopefully in the future, I'll be giving you all like how it should be done. So I offer the queens. He doesn't take the queens. Why should he? He doesn't need to. He's actually gained 10p on my queen, and this is move 8, and I make my first real mistake. I considered queen here, just trade queens again. If he takes my queen, then I'll take with the a pawn, and at least I have some pressure along the a file. I'll eventually get my bishop out. I'm not sure exactly where yet. I'll have to play d6, but it's a bit awkward because he can take and isolate my pawns, etc., etc. But I mean, and that was the best move. That's what the computer says. I should go here, and I believe it's the eval doesn't change too much. It's still an advantage for white. I don't even think he has to take. I think he can just come back to c3 and just carry on. It's a little bit awkward. This pawn on e5 stops a lot of my moves to get my bishop out. I can no longer play b6, for instance, to get my bishop out that way. So the only way coming out is d6. Is a little bit messy for me, but it's still better than what I played. Because not knowing the opening very well, and because I don't know the opening, I don't know what threats are coming my way. I just assume when I played this move that I'm attacking this pawn and attacking this pawn, like a sensible person would think. But here, I mean, he didn't play it, but he could have played bishop d3, and if I take here, just bishop here. And let's just see what the computer thinks about this, because I was thinking of never taking that pawn. So this is interesting. I'm a pawn up, and yet I'm still 0.3. Oh no, maybe this is okay. But I'd have to dance a lot with my queen. I mean, where does the queen go? Do I come back to here? Do I go here? I don't know. I'm not castled. It all seems very awkward. So I would have probably had been forced down this line as well. That's the horrible thing, because otherwise, what's the point of playing queen g6 if I'm not then going to follow through? But it didn't happen, luckily, and it was pure luck. Maybe he didn't like the complications as well. I don't know, because he's a pretty tactical player again, which you'll see later on. He's actually lower rated than me. FIDE I think is 1660 something, and I think his ECF it's about the same. Because my ECS is coming pretty low. I'm like 147 or something. I think he's around that as well. I'm generally a 160 player, but as you've seen, I'm not proving it. So perhaps my grade's going to go even lower. I'm hoping it's one of those typical things while you're learning, you get worse in rating, but then it suddenly bounces back. But that's for future chess patzer to discuss with you guys. Current chess patzer is more of a patzer than ever. The extra knowledge is a burden, not a benefit. But he doesn't. He plays knight a3, which, as you can see, is a good move. He's nearly a pawn up already, and the reason for that is He's threatening to drop his knight in for 1, which, let's face it, it's pretty tasty. It's quite difficult to stop. I say it's difficult to stop. All I need to do is play a6. Do I play a6? No. But then I don't believe that he's going to go for this pawn anyway. Because he's clearly going to castle queenside. I would imagine. I say that. I mean, he could just move it. Well, it's a bit difficult to move his bishop. As I say, my queen's on here. So the chances are he's going to go queenside. And when he goes queenside, if I lose this pawn, if I can get that bishop out the way, I've got a free attack down the c-file. So though the computer will 100% go and nab that pawn, for a human, I can totally understand why he didn't. And had he, I probably would have been happier, because I need an unbalanced position really, and maybe outplay him in that if I can. So anyway, I ignored it because I thought, well, I've already made a terrible choice in just not playing to my strengths. I know the Sicilian and I know the G3 line very well. I just don't know what I'm playing at. Heavily influenced possibly by previous games against the G3 Sicilian. It's quite hard. You have to work really hard. I don't know why I thought I wouldn't have to work hard in E4, E5, but this is even worse. All I will say is this game kicked me into gear for the next game, but that'll come later. Let's get through this one first. So yeah, just get my knight out, potentially put my knight here, attacking the pawn and the queen. Maybe things are turning around. We'll see. Let's see what he does. Castles, very natural move. Perhaps he's going to stall me on the king side if I castle king side, which is obviously what I have to do because I can't castle queen side because the light square bishop's just awkward. So I gain tempi on the queen, and it's interesting to think where the queen's going to go. Where he chooses is possibly not the best square, but he could help me as well. So if he was just casual and just right stopping me castling, he can only stop me castling because he's covering this diagonal. But then you've got to think, where does the queen go after playing b6, and then my bishop can get out as well because the queen can't drop back, so the queen's gonna have to go somewhere else anyway. And I've gained a move so that I can get my bishop out. So I was kind of hoping he'd go there. That's probably the worst square he could go. Any of the other squares, they're plus minus, I don't know. Queen here is probably okay. Defends the G pawn for 1. There's no easy. Well, actually, even that's a bit awkward because I do have a fork. Kind of, I guess the queen still defends the pawn, but it's again probably a bit awkward for him. So he chose a safe square, and though I do think, this opening wasn't a good choice, at this point I actually see that I'm winning a pawn, and because of that reason, my optimism is just ridiculous. It goes up through the roof. I do this, and it's the same with the pessimism. Like when I think things are going bad, I need to find this nice middle ground. I'm not sure where that is, but I'm going to work towards it. So I castle, get out of the way of everything, and he quite rightly sends the H pawn down the board. But he has overlooked Queen E6 because I'm attacking the pawn and I'm attacking the pawn. Okay, the knight didn't want an arrow drawn, but you get the gist. So I am now attacking 2 pawns. If he saves this pawn, say he plays f4, I'm pretty sure scary stuff's going to happen over here. The knight's going to come in at some point. It's probably okay. I have to be also a little bit careful. Maybe my queen's almost getting trapped, but I don't think it is. Not quite. We can play this through a little bit. Let's see. So if I'd gone there, I guess bishop here would be the next best move. Check, king up. And then I'm not sure, but something like knight in. Let's see how that avow shakes the computer's tree. There you go. So I'm doing perfectly fine here, and I'm happy. So because at the end of the day, I would grab a draw right now because of the stupidity of the opening choice. And when you see what's coming, I think an early draw would have been a good job for me just to get me out of the game. So I'm attacking the pawn. He, and rightly, lets the centre pawn go. He saves the pawn near his king, and when I'm winning this pawn, I'm thinking, well, this is great. The queen's coming off. I'm just a pawn up. I must be winning. But look, the computer valve's ticking over. Still 0.5 up, and that's a pawn down. So the computer's taking into account materiality, and it's saying even though a pawn's gone, he's still 0.3 up. So that means that he's got a lot of compensation, at least a pawn's worth of compensation. The downside is, though I've won this pawn, I guess there's lines open towards my king. I'm guessing that's why, and he's fully developed as well. I know this knight doesn't look amazing yet, but it can come back to b1 and then back to c3. The bishop's very decent. He's already started the attack with Harry. My bishop's sleeping. My rook is sleeping. I have no attack on the queen side. So I took a pawn. Obviously, if I survive this initiative, then I'll be a pawn up. It's quite simple. But I have to survive the initiative. And my opponent plays well. Keeps me on my toes. Keeps me thinking. And I see a few ghosts as players do when they're in trouble. But he's not swapping queens. He's saying no, which the computer really doesn't like. Where should he have gone, computer? It's all well and good telling me that he played a bad move. But it's not even that bad. I don't even agree 100% with the computer there. Keeping the queens on seems like a good idea, but it's going to tell me there's a better way to keep the queens on. Knight b4. Okay, fine. It's just again going for this pawn. Because it can't be defended. Maybe that's why it thinks it's... Oh no, look, it's gone up to 7.8. So what's my move here then? Queen takes check. Obviously you have to take back. And then d5 gives the pawn back. And I still can't defend this pawn. So yes, I'm in big trouble. See pawns, obviously with the queens off the board, makes no difference now if he wins that pawn. It's amusing that it's still saying it's fairly level. I'd much rather be white, to be quite frank. That's interesting. Maybe something to be learnt there. But he brought his queen back, which I think personally is a much better move. Keep the queens on. He's already started his attack, as I say. I'm not even started yet, so I don't 100% agree with the computer there. It's not taking into account how people feel when they're under attack and when they're not. And my opponent's feeling good because he's developed everything, and I haven't. So why wouldn't he feel good? Look at this position. If I could swap the queens, of course I'm +1, but I'm not convinced. No, I'll keep the +1 for now. I think it's still saying I'm +1. Okay, close enough. 0.68, 59, whatever. A6. All I'm trying to do now is keep this knight bad, or at least make it come back to b1, and then maybe that I can attack this bishop and maybe this pawn. A6 to play b5 to make sure that c4 is mine. Also gives me a square to get my bishop out potentially. I don't know, but rook over. Maybe the pawn can keep going, and I'll start my queenside pawn storm to try and counter his kingside pawn storm. But I under and overestimate a few moves coming up. F4, I don't think that's particularly scary. It actually puts my queen in a good square, so not terrible to see F4 here. I've also noted that if I ever get my bishop out, it's a lot harder for him to play G4, though technically he could sack that pawn, but he's always got to be a little bit careful, because if I can leave my bishop there and I play A5, perhaps I can cement it. It's just general vague ideas I was having at this point. The first things first was to get my queen to a good square, and now he can't even drop his knight back to b1 because I'll just take the bishop. Happy days. And it's near his king. You know, that's never a bad thing. You know, at some point the knight could hop in, and maybe I'll be threatening mate at some point. The knight is currently a very good defender of that square, as is the queen currently. But you know, you have these ideas in your head, and also I've eyed up this square as well. There's obviously a vital square. If I can ever get my rook here, then I can trade off queens. I am a pawn up, so obviously getting the queens off the board would be fantastic for me, especially as the knight's now no longer coming into c7 to get the pawn back easily. So queen f5, sorry, c5, and I'm feeling good. I've dispelled all my motions of, oh, it was a bad idea to play the Scotch when you don't know the Scotch. I've convinced myself, because you tell yourself a story when you're playing chess. I'm sure you all do it. This must be, I must be doing well now. You know, okay, I potentially trolled my opponent at the beginning, and I should have got comeuppance, but it seems I'm going to get away with it. But that's only true if you keep playing perfect moves. So at this point, the score's on the door. It is like watching a football match, you know. Is it 1-0, 2-0? At the moment, it's 1-0 to me, because I'm nearly at that whole pawn up now. It's just saying there's a bit of compensation for white. But you've only got to make a few loose moves in an open position for things to go very wrong, which is potentially why I don't play open positions that often. I tend to play semi-open positions very often, and I've got pretty good at them. But this is something I need to add to my game too. I need to understand when you've got all this extra space with all these long-range pieces, where you should be trying to aim for. And I generally do okay, but then, as you'll see, my dangerometer switches off a little bit. There we go. So this is an example of that. So he's played h5, and I'm thinking, well, realistically, I should just be playing h6 here. But if I play h6, I was thinking, oh, hang on a minute, what about just g4 and g5? Have I not just given him a straightforward attack? And that would be true, but it's not as easy as that. Let me show you. So I'm going to get my friend computer involved. As you can see, I'm still almost a pawn up here. So yep, one line. Yep, let's go. Let's do it. So I don't know. What did I just say? I just said a casual move, didn't I? G4. What do I do? Oh no, all the pawns are coming to get me. D5. Sack the pawn back to get the bishop out. So that makes a lot of sense, doesn't it? So he's not going to take, I guess, because I just take the pawn and attack the rook. It's actually getting a little bit hairy for him. I might even be pinning this bishop afterwards. So yeah, I mean, this position's actually looking okay. So you'd bring the rook over, and this is still a little bit. I just dropped the... yeah, because I'm going to keep pressure here and defend across here. Okay, so it's a bit hairy for a human to be playing like this. But considering what happens to my king, I should possibly go down this route. And it's funny, look, the computer's just saying +1, +1, +1. Oh, computer, if only I had your lack of fear. I don't. So he's a little bit irrelevant, bless him. But as you can see, h6 was actually a very decent move, and I disregarded it superficially because I'm like, well, even though I saw that my bishop at some point was going to be good potentially along this diagonal, I just saw also that he'd have an open g file and my king would be in trouble. Excuse me. So I didn't play h6, and part of that was obviously I can see I can see him playing h6 instead, and I'm thinking, well, I'll just play g6, that's fine. All I've got to watch out for is queen mate here, and there must be various ways that I can stop that. That was what I had in my mind anyway. So I just carried on. I'm like, well, I've got to start my attack too. Now here, I was starting to get a little bit nervous about. Maybe the move before I should have been nervous about h6 happening, and I potentially should have played h6 myself. I mean, if he takes the knight, which he just wouldn't do, I'd just take back the queen. I've just got an okay position. There's nothing wrong there. Obviously, the knight can't move anywhere at the moment because it's pinned. But oh well. So what? I should just take the position seriously and just play h6, and I'd be fine. But no, I have to be clever, don't I? I have to say, no, it doesn't matter. I can take this h6. I can hold my position together. No problem. I need to get this bishop out. The bishop's no good on b7, I don't think. Seems a little bit offside. It's kingside attack. I want my bishop defending along this line. I'm even gonna troll a little bit more, because it doesn't matter that the knight's pinned. The knight can't move anyway. So d6, and I allow my bishop out. So my opponent plays h6, and now the fear becomes real, because I've just noticed something quite tricky in the position, and my dangerometer has just been off this whole time. I'm just like, yeah, you just keep throwing Harry down the ball. Doesn't matter to me. It does matter. So say my original plan, h6. Okay, well, my bishop controls this square, so there's no more pawn storm. So, you know, what's the problem? This is why I was thinking d6 was a strong move. Then as I said previously, all I have to be worried about is the queen jumping in and mating me. You know, nothing major to worry about. And please note that I can't play f6 at any point because I am pinned. So I know about this, but I'm just like, it doesn't matter because look, my queen controls this square and this square. But black can play a bit of a shocking move here. And where does the queen go? Nowhere. Because the point is, if the queen gets captured there, captured there, captured there, captured there. I learned that from the day before, that putting your queen on a square where it can be captured, they will capture it unless you resign first to stop them doing that. But if I drop back the queen, oh dear, what's the eval here, Mr. Computer? Oh, was that only plus 15? No, I think it should be a little bit more. I think it's because I can block with the queen, but then he'll just do rook takes. The point is, it's game over. And a nice little move as well, b4. I like that. There is obviously, because computers are computers, there is a line that I looked at, but it just looked naff to me, and it certainly doesn't put me level either. I'm still minus quite a lot, but I can apparently sack the rook. Oh, I definitely can sack the rook. It's not like apparently I can. I looked at this. I obviously looked at this because it's a forcing move. He takes, I take, I go here. I'm threatening stuff over here. I'm also attacking his bishop. He moves the bishop back, saves the piece, and I've got a check. Thinking I might be picking up the knight, but he just moves the king to defend the knight. And the eval at the end of this, remember I've lost a rook for this. It's still, oh, why is it only plus 0.1.4? That's interesting. Because I just didn't see any follow-up. That's the honest truth here. I still don't see a follow-up. I don't see how I get anything more. There's no checks anywhere. Okay, we'll let the computer go on for a little bit. But this is the point. I saw to this point and saw nothing. So now the computer's going to say, oh yeah, but what about this? And that'd be interesting in itself, I guess. Come on in, let's see what magical combination to keep this at 1.6, considering my rook's gone. And my king's got weak problems of dark squares around it. b4, okay, attacking the knight. Fair enough, that is a forcing move. Potentially I could have got this far, and then knight back to b1, yep. And then knight c3. So this is just, I just wouldn't think to do this. I kind of get it. Because if knight takes, pawn takes, check wins the queen for one. No, it doesn't. Knight takes, pawn takes, queen takes. Well, let's have a look. This is part of the fun, I guess. I mean, it was never going to get here because I just couldn't see past that. But yeah, okay, it's just absolutely crushing. Because there's a rook check coming. Yeah, okay. So yeah, so that's very nice. And maybe my opponent could have cracked, but I don't think so. He doesn't. It's not forced. So I'm attacking his rook. So it's moving the queen. It doesn't want to move the rook. That's very interesting. Okay, so if we move the rook, I'm not sure where I'd put it. Let's just put it somewhere safe. Apparently safe. So what's so bad about that? Just moving the rook out of the way. Queen c4. Okay, only a computer sees this stuff. I'm sorry. This is just not something I'm ever going to be good enough. Not yet, anyway. Not without so much tactical. Remember what the position was when I'm supposed to be giving up my rook. And I do see that, to be fair, there's a lot of chances around here. Alright, fine. Because even then, you... okay, so it says just move the... Yeah, alright, I'm going to go back, guys. I mean, let's face it. There was some play for that. But as a patzer that I am, I could only see up to this point. And I couldn't see further. And maybe I could have possibly seen b4 and then knight going back. But to then think to bring the knight back and then there was going to be loads of trouble. I'm not good enough yet. And I have to give up a whole rook for this as well. I guess in future I'm going to think about potentially if I can move a b pawn. Maybe. I mean, this is quite tenuous and if I ever do play a game where something like this happens, you can bet it's going to be on YouTube within seconds. But I will take into account that this was actually a little bit better than I thought it was, because I just thought I was losing. So let me go right back. So that's why I didn't play h6, and to be honest, it puts me in a really bad place. I play bishop d3. Now, sorry, e6. Now, the reason I play bishop e6, the computer's obviously telling me that I'm busted now. Oh, only 2 at the moment, because don't worry, it goes worse. It's hard sometimes when I know what's coming. Now, the reason I've played bishop here is literally at some point I saw that the swap was going to happen, and in fact I can go on a little bit because it'll make sense. And here I thought I could get away with rook here. Now the thinking was, if he ever drops his bishop back, obviously this is a really weak pawn, now I can just play f5. And to be honest, I don't know where he goes, but I'm imagining I'm still a -2 here, but I reckon I'm not that bad. Oh, there you go. It's actually only almost only a pawn down, and I've defended quite nicely. So I saw this and I thought, okay, but he does have more than one way to attack, sadly. So we'll go back. H takes, rook moves. Now the best move, and the move he plays, as you can see, is just shot up to 5.5. I don't need the computer to explain this part. It's pretty obvious, and you guys were, I'm sure, just going, black's dead, black's dead, black's dead. But there's always tenacious defense if you look hard enough. It's something that my opponents have done to me recently. I've been well up and they've just kept going, and I'm like, well, you know what? I accept that I'm in big trouble here, but I'm not going to play the move that I would, force his resignation. Basically, I'm just going to play the most difficult moves that I can think up, and hopefully he'll go wrong. And this includes I'm already calculating my king trying to escape over to the queen side. And I'm like, that's no grandiose thing, because a lot of this is forcing, as you'll see shortly. Best move, easily the best move. My f5 defense doesn't work anymore because unfortunately the bishop is pinned, so he can just take the pawn because I can't take the queen, and I'm just getting mated. There's just no two ways about it. I'm getting mated or I'm losing material just with this elastic band maneuver. Can't remember. I think it's elastic band when you take something but you defend something. So I'm just getting thrashed. So f5 is not a defense against this. The only defense, because just taking now is mate, is to take the pawn. So I calculated this, and I'm like, I don't see a false checkmate. I don't see it. Had I seen it, I probably would have been like, head on the table. Oh my god! Oh wow! I've really paid for my my chess sins, as it were. Like I say, the opening choices weren't the best. But tell you what though, don't play the Scots against me in the future because I'm all booked up now. No, I'm joking. I'm not. Just play it. I'm probably never going to play knight c6 ever again. No, that's a lie too. I will, because chess is just wonderful, and this is a brand new position for me. And I even though I'm on the wrong end of it, I actually really enjoyed this game. Queen takes check, of course. Give me one square, because obviously if I go here, I'm just going to get mated. I say obviously. Let me quickly work it out. Is it rook checkmate? Is that? Where's the mate? Find the mate. Rook check. King check. Check. Yeah, he's mate. Just rook mate. Bang. Why is it only saying check? Where can the king go? Oh, of course the king can come back here. Right, so that's just rubbish. So let me try that again. Queen check. King here, I guess, forced. Queen check. King here. And queen here. And there's no way to stop mate. That's mate. There's no avoiding that. There's no knight back. There's no queen takes. There's no bishop takes. It's just checkmate. So I can't play king forward. So I play the forcing, the only move that doesn't lose, king f8. And now queen h6 check. It's the right move. And I'm forced, but I'm nearly away. Look, I'm nearly getting there. Oh gosh, look, I can get away. Run, kingy, run. Now he misses the winning move. And there is only one winning move, and I guess that was part of the comforting thing here, because it was, if my king ever gets to the queen side, I'm actually okay. I don't think I'm better, but I'm definitely okay. I've got an okay pawn mass. I have plenty of pieces around my king. It's no bad thing. And my opponent missed the move, and I believe the move is queen h4 check. I'll just check that, because at the moment, yeah, it's +6, and oh no, it's queen g5 check. I'm not sure there's a big difference. I guess this allows the rook out, and there's no real defense. I can go here, but I've got all sorts of problems. Oh yeah, this is horrible. This one takes, and takes your queen because it's pinned. So at this point, I am busted. I am totally dead. But I'll leave the computer value up because of what happens. And now I understand why he played what he played. But he just needed to work a little bit harder. But it's not an easy pin to see, that the king's going to be forced here, and then there's a pin, and then you win the queen. It's not that obvious. And again, I will definitely mention my opponent only had about 3 or 4 minutes left here. And it does make a big difference. Especially when you're telling yourself, as you've seen with me, saying there must be a win, there must be a win, there must be a win, there may be a win, but you still have to find it. And I guess he just thought if he checks, I'll just play king here. And then, as I say, if you don't see the win of the queen, because obviously you just play it instantly, what do you follow up on after I'm just coming around here? You don't see it, you don't see it, and you shouldn't even beat yourself up. Chess is like that. People always say that, oh, you could have gone here, you could have gone there. The point is, at that moment, you looked and you couldn't find that move. So don't beat yourself up about it. There's no, oh, if only I'd done this. No, you didn't see it. If you'd seen it, you'd won, and it would have been a beautiful game, and you could tell all your friends and say, yeah, look at this. But you didn't, and so don't be so hard on yourselves. So instead, he played a tempting move, and look at the score on the eval. It's tempting because I take back with a pawn. F5's come in. G4. He must be winning, right? And he probably is. As the score says, he's still got an edge. But that's quite a drop, isn't it, from 0.6? We don't need the computer now, because I can definitely explain why he's not winning anymore. Bye-bye, computer. Thanks for your time, as always. I take back. My opponent tries to can open the position. He's missed something. He's missed how useful that knight is on c6. And I saw this, obviously. After the swap, I just felt so much better, because there was definitely no forcing win after that. Because I looked hard as well. We were both looking hard, and I had more time, which is a little bit annoying, because it means that I can see it, the execution before he can. But in this case, I'm very happy. I'll just take it. It's like, thank you very much. I'll have that pawn. It was dangerous. It could possibly have been a pass pawn. He's threatening just play f6 potentially. This is not nice. But I've seen. I take. Where's your next check coming from? Oh yeah. And it looks good. You bought your rook over with check. My king's in the open. Ah, thank you, Mr. Knight. Knight to the rescue. And the point of this knight being so strong is that there's no pawns on either side to kick it. It's on a proper outpost. That knight is solid. It's defended by the queen. So even when my king starts dancing over, the queen's already defending the knight. The point is, at some point, he's got check and takes on f5, which happens. But by then, my king is clear, as we'll play on fairly quickly. Runs check. There you go. So my king is now absolutely safe. I'll put the eval back on just for the rest of the game, just to show you that I didn't really get a big enough advantage, even though it's saying 0.7. It's not really, because rook endings, rook and knight endings are very tricky. So I'm going to actually play through this part a little bit faster, because I want to get to the last game as well, and I don't want the video to be too long. I think the lesson for this game is literally okay, take some risks, but not right from the opening and not know what you're doing. Back yourself, be confident, say you're going to be a good player anyway, of course, but don't put yourself in a really hard place to start with. It was just dumb. It was like trying to ride a bike without someone giving me some stabilizers. It's just not a good idea. I was falling over all over the place, right? So he finally brings his knight back in, but that also releases my knight, and of course I'm threatening to swap off a few pieces here. The rooks are coming off. Hopefully the queens are coming off, and he's miffed now as well. You can understand that he'd be annoyed because let's face it, there was a false win there and he couldn't find it. So he swaps off in anger, and then we start dancing around a little bit. There's a few little tricks coming up, but I'll talk through them quickly as we come to them. The key here is knights potentially got a check here at some point. I attack his passed pawn. I just want to stop that passed pawn completely. He offers that passed pawn. Obviously, if I take, then I lose the rook. As I just pointed out, the knight check's pretty good. I played this move with a bit of a rush. It was a bit naughty, really, but I was feeling a lot better considering where I was. So I played this very fast, but stopped just one square short. It was a bit naughty. I should have just played it normally. Obviously, I was never taking that pawn. I just want to double up against it, potentially win it with the knight. Even if I do win that pawn, it's still not a dead cert win anyway, because 4 against 3 with his king where it is, it's very tough to win that as well. I would obviously give it a good try, but as you'll see, he plays this bit pretty well considering apparently I've got the edge here. Brings his king up the board. That's cool. I'm getting out of the potential of the check, and also potentially maybe I have no idea how or when or why. Maybe my king can come over this side. It probably needs to stay with these pawns, to be quite frank. The main reason for this move is just to stop the check, potentially get out of the way at some point against c5, but the d pawn's quite weak then because it's backwards and he can build up his rooks on it. So, you know, this is a fairly tough endgame considering now neither of us have any time. Defends the pawn. I attack the pawn again. He defends the pawn, also threatening a fork. This is a problem with knights. They're tricky beasts. I defend that threat. As you can see, the score's not changed at all. Hardly at all. I mean, it's got a little bit worse. It goes better, worse, better, worse. I've always 0.5, I think. Defends the pawn again. It's passive, but what can I do? Obviously, if I could ever get his pawn to move from the b file or forward, I would have my nice little check on c4, but that's just a pipe dream. That's a fine move. As I say, I'm moving my king so I can potentially play c5. Yeah, and here I'm just like, with no time each of us, we've both suffered. Him in one way, me in another. If I move my king anywhere, I don't really want to do stuff like this because the knight's now pinned, but I guess he'll be after this pawn. It's all a bit naughty, and I don't have to go for it because it simplifies down to a draw anyway. So I actually just took the knight and offered the draw just to play it through. Knight takes, king, rook takes, rook takes. This is what could have happened. It didn't happen because obviously we both saw this. Rook takes, and then c6, and that's a dead draw. There's no plus minus there. I don't care what, even if the computer gives point, it isn't. The point is, it's just a draw. But I didn't lose, and that's good because that's broken my streak. I no longer have a streak of 6 losses. And there was a lot of tactics for me to look at in that game, and because of that reason and the length of this game, I didn't have to wait long for the next game, which I'm going to go straight into. So let me do that. This is the last game. So let me drop in the score sheet, and I'm not going to spend too long on this because I actually played this one pretty well. I don't miss a lot, and unfortunately my opponent blunders. But I'm still going to go for it because I've got to show a win at some point. It did happen. I finally won a game. Yay! And it's in the Open Spanish, so I can explain the Open Spanish a little bit. Just a little bit. I'm not... As I say, another time when it's a really, really deep, complicated game, I'm going to explain the Open Spanish a bit more. Because it's a great opening, and you hardly ever see it because people are obsessed with the Marshall Gambit and the closed Sicilian. So it's very, very rare that you get to see the marshal. Let's turn the computer off. It's not needed in this one. I can definitely talk my way through it. So if nothing else, all the other games were a good warm up for this one, and psychologically, I'm not feeling bad anymore. I'm not a big time loser. I mean, that game was a bit stupid, wasn't it? Let's face it, the last one, but not as stupid as the game before. So it's getting better. So as I say, it's an open Spanish. Just zoom through a few moves. Those that are familiar with this will know that this is all theory. You take the pawn. You offer another pawn. They don't take it. You dance around a little bit. You get your pawn back. And this is generally the starting position after bishop e6. And now from here, c3. You don't want him to be able to play easy d4s. You might want to put your knight on a d4 at some point. You gotta watch out for this pawn. It's strong and weak. It's strong because it's a fawn in the black side, but you can lose it fairly easily with pieces ganging up on it. So you gotta be a little bit careful. This is a typical move in all Sicilians, is because you're always also watching out for knight a5, so your bishop's always got a square to come back to. And in this case, it's a good diagonal as well anyway, because you want to do something about this knight, because it's a good knight. It's a very good knight, and that's potentially why black plays this opening. But there's nothing wrong with any of this. This is just general developing, castling. I'm attacking the knight, so she's got to make my opponent's a girl. She needs to make a choice about a knight. She's the lowest rated in the tournament as well. So if I'd lost this one, then it may have been time to quit chess. No, I've never quit. But she's only 1488, I think, FIDE, and she's 137 ECF. But she is a woman candidate master, and she's I played her before. She's aggressive, but I don't think she can control her aggression yet. You'll see. She tries to be too aggressive, and unfortunately her position's not ready for it. So she keeps the knight, attacks the light square bishop. We'll move that. I'd like this position generally because I can always take this knight. So if this bishop ever gets distracted, I can nab the knight. So I've always got that in mind. I'm not saying that's how I win the game, but these are just general thoughts. A little bit. I wonder what I would have done had she dropped the knight back. It's not the best move by far. She plays the best move, but I wonder if just bishop d4. It's a giant pawn, but potentially maybe it's a good pawn. Maybe it stops any sort of kingside pawn breaks. So I'm not sure. In fact, we'll have a quick look. I'm not sure what the computer would suggest here. I've still got a slight edge, and I suspect it's bishop d4, but we'll just check. I can't imagine I can let that pawn go. That seems a bit stupid. Bishop f4. Okay, same difference. Yeah, maybe that's even better because you leave this square open. You can bring your rook over to defend the pawn. She's getting very cramped in her position, so yes, I can understand bishop f4. But she doesn't need to do that, so she doesn't. This is actually pretty aggressive, as I say. Like you may want to play general moves like h3 to stop the pin, but perhaps she'll just take the pawn. These f4, f5 or f6, and suddenly the rook's swinging over. You've got to be a little bit careful. I mean, there's a reason why people play this opening, and it's called the open Roy Lopez because it opens and she has two bishops. It's just whether she has good squares for these knights, which is where you cause some trouble. Educationally, if you think that you can kick this knight away, thinking, oh yeah, it's going to be useless over here because you're currently controlling d6, and there's no point in the knight coming back to d8. You actually cause yourself a lot of trouble in your c pawn. I mean, just have a quick look. This is it's very weak. Look, all my advantage is gone. So there's no quick. I mean, how do you even defend the pawn? I actually have to take the knight, which is useless. You just got rid of your really good bishop for a not good knight, and you're going to be saddled with a backward c pawn. But you've got to have these ideas in your mind. I don't need you anymore, computer, but thanks. You've got to have in your mind that if you could ever scare this knight away, you play a piece up in your kingside attack, and that happens in a lot of Roy Lopez's. Knights get stranded on b7 quite frequently, funny enough, and I've won a lot of games that way. So I just get on with defending the pawn. Well, nothing wrong with that. It's an X-ray move. It's also aimed at because people who play this always want to play f6 or f5. It's aimed to take advantage of that particular move, because then I'll have a lot of pressure down the e-file. And sadly, she walks into it. Now here it's still only, I think, +1. But you've given me exactly what I want. I have a safe position to attack you from. And this one, all natural moves are pretty good for a change. You know, I tried to play natural moves in the game yesterday, and that was a disaster. And end up dropping my queen for nothing. But in this one, no, I'm feeling good. Has to take with the rook, because remember what I said earlier? The bishop is unfortunately defending the knight. So rook takes. If pawn takes, that's just awful, because you're just going to have... Oh, not pawn up, that'd be even worse. But if you take with a pawn, you now got no defense, basically. The bishop's already on this pawn. Got to get the knight out the way somehow. It doesn't really matter. Queen's coming in. Okay, it's defendable, but you don't want that position at all. You want the pawns in front of your king, which is why she took with the rook. The rook is now a target for the bishop. Potentially the knight's coming in as well. I'm on this pawn, because there's no knight f6 anymore. There's no knight on f6, so the h7 pawn is weak. So I try to be a bit sneaky. I'm just trying to get rid of this bishop. If knight takes, then bishop takes, and my bishop's lovely on this diagonal. You can move the rook over, but maybe the bishop can just come back. This rook doesn't have a lot of squares, and that's quite a fun thing to do with chess, is just to draw the squares you control in your head, just so you know how many squares a piece has to move. I do this as often as I can, and this is how you trap pieces. But potentially still, knight takes is probably still maybe the best move. She doesn't. She goes aggressive, as I said. I know my opponent's aggressive, and I actually high five her mentally, because I like players like this. They play much more fun chess. Their games are way more interesting. She's being very hopeful. Potentially a sack here at some point. The rook coming over. As I say, the bishop's already coming down this way. I don't know. Potentially the other rook coming over. Okay, right. You know, it's all aggressive, but she's now just about to lose one of her best attackers. So the light squares are mine. The knight's coming sort of back into the game, but the queen can now swing in. Funnily enough, g6 is a best defensive move here, but it's almost impossible to play, because you're always going to be worried at some point that the bishop might be coming in behind it. Obviously the knight's sorting out at the moment, but you'd also want to move them at some point as well. You can't just leave them there. An important note is also that say she attacked the queen, there's no queen takes here because of the old cheapo. So g6 is possibly her best defense here, but she goes by moving the h6 pawn, which is okay, but potentially I've got a sack on here at some point. I mean, well, that's optimistic play, and you know, I don't know if that's going to happen or not, but it's in the bank. It's things happening. I am attacking this pawn, so at some point, potentially I'm going to move my king. I don't know about that, but maybe g3, sorry, and then, or just even just rook over and just double up on that pawn. I got very straightforward attacking plans here, and to be honest, she can't really move that many things. That's the downside. As I say, these bishops are so powerful. They control so many squares. And the queen too. And the queen. Look, if we just cover all the squares, I'm currently. I'm not saying she's not attacking squares too, but I'm controlling. Well, controlling, but that is most of the board that I have something involved in. So I'm feeling very good here. Bringing my knight, because the knight's not really doing anything. I now open the d file. As I said, one of my plans is just to bring a rook over and line it up with the queen. That can never be a bad thing. Also, after rook over, I can actually take that pawn, because the check means nothing because the queen's defended. Ooh. So she goes active. I can understand it, but it's just a blunder, unfortunately. And as soon as she played it, I was like, no, there's definitely something wrong here. Okay, the queen's got nowhere to go, so I'm going to have to take this now. This knight's fantastic, but unfortunately it just runs into a sequence, which I saw maybe 2 minutes of calculation. Bishop takes, and unfortunately, the quiet move, g3. There's nowhere for that bishop to go. If the bishop comes back, I'm just going to take it. Take with a pawn. I've got a choice of a check here or just taking the pawn back. So that's no good. Can't go here because I control this square. Only square. Oh, sorry. Let's do the ones down here. Can't go there because the pawn take it. Can't go there because the knight take it. Can't go there because the rook take it. So she had to go back. And going back, now that this knight's no longer defending the check, and it's worse than that because I've also seen what the follow-up is. It's not just a pawn check, and she didn't realise at this point. She moves her king, and then unfortunately, that does win material. There's no way to move this knight and save the rook. So she plays actively, but I'm winning the exchange. There's no real need to calculate too far here, and I'll play through the ending pretty fast as well because there's not really that much to learn. I'm attacking a pawn, she's attacking a pawn, I defend, she defends, I move the king out the pin, the king's coming over because she wants to get her king active. I'm moving the bishop off the diagonal. The bishop can't come back on this diagonal because she'll block the rook's defense of a6. And obviously she can't come here because I'll just take it with the rook. So we're getting rid of the bishop. Now I can attack that bishop with tempi. The king's come over, which is set up a little tactic for me. I'm just developing my rook. Now her only break is what she plays, and it's the best move apparently, the computer says. c5, but the rooks are coming off, and a rook will destroy a bishop in this kind of position. So I'm going to swap the material down, and now just get my king active. Sorry, I know I should spend a bit more time talking this through, but I don't need to. Kick the king back. Then I'm going to trap the king on this line, so the king can never come over to b4. And all I need to do is swap the rook for the bishop at the right moment, which is what I work towards. Bishop's pinned, king, take it. And now that's the end of the game. She played on to checkmate. And the one thing I will say is that I had to checkmate by bringing her king towards, the quickest way was bringing her king towards me, as in like I'm sitting at the board and I'm bringing the king towards me. You don't experience that online when you're just checkmating someone at the bottom of the board or the top of the board or the side of the board. It's very unusual trying to bring a king forward to checkmate. Well, you'll see. One day you'll do it, and then if you haven't already, and it just feels really unusual when you play mainly online. But the point is, this pawn distracts the king, and as soon as that happens, I go and win this one. Because you can't. Your king's just not fast enough to guard both sides of the board. So, a positive finish to the tournament. And I'll definitely go back, and I'll probably never play in the lower sections ever again. I've promised myself that, because I think I'm only going to get better by playing tougher people like the guys I played yesterday. And I learned a few lessons the hard way, but that is the way you remember lessons sometimes. You know, sometimes you have positive reinforcement, sometimes you have negative reinforcement. This was definitely negative reinforcement, but it's all good. I've got some more tournaments coming up. I've got a London League match on Wednesday. I might play the Muswell Hill Rapid Play, which is on Wednesday. I'm going to plug Adam's website again, because that's where the list of most of the London chess tournaments are. So let me just go there quickly. When it wants to load, and here's his little calendar. As you can see, on the 25th of October, which is on Wednesday, there's the 8th Muswell Hill Rapid event. You just click on a link, it'll give you some more information. Starts 10:30, finishes at 6. Thing is, I got a London League game in the evening, so I don't know if I want to play 6 games of Rapid and then a slow game. That seems a lot, even though I do sometimes stream for 7 to 9 hours. That's just online chess. You don't have to work too hard on that. But somehow, for some unknown reason, I find it easier. I do definitely play a lot better online, but I'm going to get that over to the over to ball game at some point. And in the weekend, I have a rest, but then there's a really nice tournament the following weekend at Imperial College in Kensington, which is near the Natural History Museum and the Science Museum, and that's a really good tournament, so I don't want to miss that one. So that one's definitely on the list. And then before you know it, it's the London Chess Classic, and I'm hoping to play there as well. But there's tournaments in between. Golders Green's coming up again. Hampstead will come up again. And I'll let you guys know if I'm going to go or not. And I met one of the YouTubers this time round. It was very nice to say hello. So I will always say hi if you just let me know where you're from. Don't just start talking to me as though you know me. That would be a bit unusual. And not that that happened. It didn't happen like that. But yeah, just say hi. I know you're from YouTube or something. But thanks, guys. So part 2's finished. And I'll be back with more game analysis in the future. Plus a few more YouTube videos of me streaming. And join the stream, please. Please come and join. I'll quickly plug myself on that one as well. If I go to Twitch, all the information's in my YouTube about, so you can always just go there. But I play all my online chess here. I'm just going to point out a couple of new things that I've just added to my channel. If it hurries up and loads, yeah, that's the chat loading. So you can buy a beer for me. You don't have to buy a beer for me. That's my YouTube channel link. That's my Twitter. I'm happy to promote Ginger GM. He's awesome. That's his website. That's his YouTube stuff, all free. And of course, Chess England. So you know, if you ever watching me and you need some links, they'll always be there. But come and follow me at, on Twitch TV/ChessPatsUK. But for now, bye and thanks for tuning in. Please like, please subscribe if you haven't subscribed, and I'll see you at the next one. Bye.